Hello, friends, and welcome back to Girl Talking Grace. I'm Dee, and today we're diving into one of the most famous and perhaps one of the most misunderstood chapters in the entire Bible. Have you ever heard someone say, I just want to be a Proverbs 31 woman? Or maybe you've thought, I could never be her. Maybe you've read this chapter and you walked away feeling overwhelmed instead of encouraged. If that's you, I want you to know something. I don't think God intended Proverbs 31 to make women feel like failures. I believe He intended it to show us what happens when a woman does walk closely with Him. Today we're going to slow it down and we're going to uncover some treasures that are often missed and ask God to show us His heart. Let's begin. Did you know that Proverbs 31 doesn't actually even begin with her? Nope. It begins with a mother. King Lemuel's mother is speaking wisdom into her son. Isn't that beautiful? Like before God even describes the woman of noble character, He shows us a mother talking to her son, shaping the next generation. So already we are seeing something very important. Never underestimate the influence of a godly woman. You may never preach to thousands or write a book or take a title or a position, but you may raise children, you may mentor a younger woman or encourage a friend or speak truth into one person's life. And God can use that to impact generations. This reminds me of 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5, where Paul tells Timothy, I remember your genuine faith, for you share the faith that first filled your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice. See, faith is often passed from one generation to the next. Proverbs 31, 1 through 3, it says, do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who run kings. See, at first glance, this sounds like advice only for men. But there's a principle here for all of us. See, it's simply saying don't waste what God has entrusted to you. Don't waste your strength, your gifts, your peace, your calling. And don't pour them into things that destroy your relationship with God. Like how many of us spend a lot of our emotional energy trying to earn approval or trying to prove ourselves, striving, comparing ourselves to everyone else? See, God says, guard what I've entrusted to you. Stewardship. Proverbs 31, verses 4 through 9. So King Lemuel's mother tells him to keep a clear mind and to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. A clear mind and to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Did you notice that? See, a godly leader protects the vulnerable. He doesn't use authority to dominate. He uses it to serve. And you know who else did that? Jesus did. Jesus did exactly that. Leadership in God's kingdom always looks like service. Whether you're leading a family, a Bible study, a business, or simply influencing your friends, ask yourself, am I using my voice to build others up? See, we said we're going to reveal some hidden treasures. Here's a hidden treasure number 1. The woman isn't introduced until verse 10. Why? Why is that? Well, because God establishes wisdom before He talks about work, character before accomplishments, hearts before habits. Verse 10, who can find a virtuous and capable wife? Here's something most English Bibles don't tell us. And I may screw saying up this word. It says, the Hebrew says, Eshet Chayil, And again, I might not be saying that correctly, but that word, Chayil, means much more than just virtuous. It means strength, valor, courage, excellence, might, capability. It's the very same word used to describe mighty warriors in the Old Testament. Think about that. God isn't describing some frail, fragile woman. He's describing a woman of courage, a woman of spiritual strength. And ladies, this should encourage us. God has never called women to weakness. He calls us to courage rooted in Him. Hidden treasure number 2, Proverbs 31 is written as an acrostic. Every verse begins with the next letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It's like writing A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. And why would the author do that? Many scholars believe it's a poetic way of saying, hey, this is godly character from A to Z, not perfection, but wholeness. A life surrendered to God in every area. Verse 11, her husband can trust her. The very first thing Scripture says about their marriage is trust. Not beauty, not success, not romance, but trust. Healthy relationships, they're not built on fear or control. They're built on trust, honesty, and mutual honor. Hidden treasure number 3. Notice how many times that this chapter mentions her hands. Her hands work, her hands provide, her hands create, reach out to the poor, bless others, and reveal the heart. See, Jesus, He used His hands to heal, serve, feed, and wash feet. Her hands reflect His. So maybe today we should ask ourselves, what are my hands busy doing? Verses 13 through 24. Some people think that Proverbs 31 teaches women should stay inside the home all day. But that's not what we see. See, when we read these, it says she buys land, she buys many things like plants vineyards or manages finances and runs a business, trades in the marketplace. She oversees workers. She creates products. She is wise with resources. So this isn't about giving every woman the same job description. It's about faithfully stewarding what God has placed in your hands and doing it well. Hidden treasure number 4. Notice something fascinating here, because God spends 20 verses describing her character before He ever mentions her beauty. Then verse 30 says, charm is deceptive and beauty does not last. I wonder why that is. See, the world starts with appearance, but God starts with the heart. Verse 20, she opens her hand to the poor. Did you notice that she doesn't close her hand around what she's been given? She doesn't gatekeep or keep it all to herself. She lives open-handed. Open hands can receive from God, but they can also give. Closed fist struggle to do either. Verse 25 says she is clothed with strength and dignity and laughs without fear of the future. She isn't laughing because life is easy. She's laughing because fear doesn't own her anymore. She knows who holds tomorrow. Isaiah 26 verse 3 comes to mind. You will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. Verse 26, she speaks with wisdom. Kindness is on her tongue. Truth without kindness wounds, and kindness without truth misleads. Jesus perfectly balanced both. That's what we're growing toward. Speaking truth with love and love and truth. Are we speaking life or are we speaking death? We want to make sure that we're being a voice that carries. Hidden treasure number 5, her family rises up and blesses her. She never asks for applause. She never demands recognition. Her faithfulness speaks for itself. Real influence grows quietly over time. Verse 30, this is the mountain peak of the chapter. Everything before this leads here. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. Everything else in Proverbs 31 is fruit. This verse is the root. The fear of the Lord means living with awe, reverence, trust, and obedience because we know who God is. See, that's the source of her wisdom, her courage, her generosity, her strength. It's because of him. Now, my favorite hidden treasure is where the chapter begins with a mother pouring wisdom into her son. It ends with children rising up to bless their mother. Do you see the legacy there? A woman plants seeds she may not see bloom for years. Years, sometimes as parents, we make sacrifices where we're teaching, we're praying, we're serving, and we're loving. And one day, those seeds that we planted all along, they bear fruit. That's true legacy. It reminds me of Shiphrah and Puah, who protected a generation they would never fully see. It reminds me of Sarah, whose faith blessed generations after her. It reminds me of every woman who quietly follows God, trusting him with the outcome. So maybe today you're thinking, I'm not a Proverbs 31 woman. Friend, neither was she in a single day. She became that woman, okay? She became that woman through years of walking with God. Proverbs 31 isn't a checklist to complete. It's a portrait of what God is shaping in us as we surrender to him. We are a work in progress. God isn't asking you to become someone else's story. He isn't inviting you to faithfully live the story. He's writing in yours. So don't leave this chapter feeling defeated. Leave encouraged. Walk with Jesus today. Fear the Lord. Trust him. Serve faithfully. Speak kindly. Love generously. Because one day, whether people notice or not, your life will quietly tell the story of God's transforming grace. Thanks for listening. Till next time. Keep growing, keep stewarding, and keep reaching towards the light.